Hello and welcome to AAA. In today's video, we will be talking about the Mairimashita Iruma-kun power system. Most people think Mairimashita's power system is really simple, and although I don't disagree exactly, people often miscategorize it. Let me explain. So when we think of power systems in manga or in anime, it's usually in three categories, with two opposite types and one which is a mix of both. If you don't quite understand what I'm saying, let's break it down. The categories are the unique category and its opposite, which is the common category, and obviously combined is the unique plus common category together. I'm not so good at naming these, but I promise it will make sense. So, for the unique category, it usually means only one or few people can have these abilities. While in the common, it's common, so anyone or most people can use this power. As for how powerful they are, for the unique category, it's heavily reliant on the power you are born with or receive. And for the common category, it's heavily reliant on the skill, mastery, or training that you have. It's not to say, of course, that training won't strengthen a unique power, or that there isn't some kind of latent talent involved in common power. But just in general, that's how it works. And if you're still confused, let's talk about some examples. For unique powers, the example is quirks from My Hero Academia, in which very few people have the same quirk, and sometimes only one person has one quirk. In this world, minor spoilers, but generally, how good your quirk is makes a big difference in your hero ability. The MC and the main villain, for example, have amazing quirks, much better than most other quirks out there. And even if a regular person with a regular quirk trained 100 times more than the top villain, they wouldn't stand a chance. Another example is Fire Force, which is basically pyrokinetics. And although in this world you aren't really born with these abilities, the ignition ability you gain is pretty much yours and unique to yourself with very few exceptions. Those without these abilities cannot train their way into getting them, and only specific people can develop them. Now, for common, we have alchemy from Full Metal Alchemist. Although people can specialize in different types of alchemy, it stands on a basic premise and anyone can essentially perform alchemy. You aren't required to be born special to use alchemy. As long as you study and understand the concept, you can use it. Now, the difference between power levels of different users, in general, rely heavily on their skill, mastery, and understanding of what alchemy is. Now, the other example is Demon Slayer. There are different types of breathing techniques in Demon Slayer, but essentially anyone can learn this technique because the basis is controlling your breath, and every human in the series is certainly capable of that. Of course, people will have varying aptitudes and will be more suited to different breathing styles, but in general, if any of the characters trained enough, they would be able to perform at least the basic of breathing techniques. Does this make sense so far? Now you might think, well then what is unique plus common? Well, this is basically when there's an existing power concept, but there are specificities that allow for unique abilities. An example of this would be Nen. Anyone can do the basic forms of Nen. There's a school, it can be taught. People may have varying talents when it comes to Nen, but essentially hard work and training will allow you to be able to use Nen. However, despite everyone being able to learn Nen, your Nen ability is very specific to you. It's something you create based on your history and your personality, and in fact, some people in the series have very special abilities, and in general, only you can really use that ability. The same can be said about Black Clover, where magic is common. Everyone, for the most part, can use magic to some degree with or without a grimoire. But a grimoire is special to the user and contains spells and ability that only the user can use. Now, I hope my explanation makes sense and you guys are able to follow along. Now, let's get back to talking about Welcome to Demon School Iruma-kun. People think that Mairimashita belongs to the unique category. Everybody compares it to quirks. Almost every week there's a post about My Hero in the subreddit, which I'm totally just done with. But anyways, Mairimashita actually belongs to the unique plus common category. Yes, bloodline abilities are unique just like quirks. And yes, your bloodline can be a huge aspect of your power. However, magic also exists, and more than just your bloodline, your mastery of the general magic can hugely impact how powerful you are. I mean, not only does our protagonist not have a bloodline ability, but there are many strong demons that rarely if ever use it. For example, Opera-san, who is extremely powerful and the security demon for one of the three greats. Next we have Asukun, who is the honor student and top of his class. Or even Balam sensei, whose ability is not suited for combat, but he is still ranked 8th demon who can go toe to toe with someone like Kalego, who has a very powerful bloodline ability. I wanted to start with that just to give some context on the kind of world Mairimashita Iruma-kun is. It is the demon world, and you can't just directly compare it to other mangas about people. It is not the human world plus abilities, but the power system here is interwoven in their world. Here, magic is used outside of a personal level, like to make rivers float, islands fly, and to power a friggin' theme park. It is a result of the kind of environment and society that demons have. So now that's out of the way, let's talk about the baseline abilities of demons, the 3 types of magic, as well as some creative combinations of these in action. First things first, it's canon that in general all demons have wings to fly with, and all demons have familiars they can summon. So far, it's pretty obvious that these are standard since the school tests for these ability during the first week. Examples: the flying test, the familiar class. This really changes the game because everyone has a built-in mobility, and any advantage of being able to fly away is negated since your enemy can also fly. For the familiar summoning, this ability is also extremely useful as it can turn any individual fight into a team fight. Oftentimes, these familiars also have special abilities, like when Asukun uses his familiar Vino to breathe fire and destroy the flowers during the flying test. Next, we have the 3 types of magic ranging from its rarity, which is non-verbal magic, verbal magic, and then bloodline magic. Starting with verbal magic, it's pretty easy. You say a spell to cast it, and then it happens. In general, all demons are able to utilize this magic with little practice. Since in universe, we are only at our 2nd year, this is the type of spell the students are taught. One of which was Cherishil, which in the most basic form can change the appearance of an object, such as the frog turning black from Mononosuke Sensei's class, or the appearance of Ali-san when he is first introduced. The other spell used a lot in the series is Fractal, which can manipulate the weight of a person or object, although extremely useful for demon swooning, like when Iruma used this to change Ameri's weight in the water park arc. It also has some good battle applications, like when Iruma used it in chapter 230 to increase the weight of his arrows and trap Shiida. There are other spells shown, and I will mention a few of them later, but I think these 2 are enough to give you an idea about how incantations or verbal magic works. Now on to the next level. Non-verbal magic is much harder to utilize than verbal magic, and is reserved for those who train really hard. The best example of this is really Asmodeus, which really underscores just how exceptional he is. Asukun uses non-verbal magic to cast his flames, and he does it incredibly quickly with a lot of precision and control. In fact, there is a verbal version of this which we've seen Iruma-kun use when he burned the trash during his evil phase. This is called La Fire. However, when comparing the flames that Asukun regularly manifests, you can clearly see how much higher quality it is and how much more mobility he has with it. In fact, it was the ability to study Asukun's flames that made the head of the magical development Batra reveal all his info about the teachers. Another example of non-verbal magic is transformation magic. This ability is kind of the version of Cherishil, which allows one to transform objects or persons depending on the caster's imagination. This magic was used masterfully by Ameri during the Walter Park incident, where she used it to harden and make into a defense the stone on the ground. Now that you guys are aware of the magic in the world of demons, let's talk about the Bloodline ability. Now, as Balam sensei explained, this is the rarest type of magic. I see a lot of people who are confused what rare means here, but I'm pretty sure he means that for each bloodline ability, only those born with it are able to use it, making that specific ability rare. Now, after researching into all the different types of bloodlines, I think it's possible to classify it into 3 basic types: manipulation, conjuration, and enhancement. Yes, I know I am stealing a bit from Hunter x Hunter. For manipulation, it's the ability to control aspects of a person or an object. This can be done through emotional manipulation, like for example, Elizabeth X, who manipulates people's feelings to make them like her, or the Andro-Afras brothers' bloodline ability, which provokes and agitates their target. I think Ameri's ability, Romanticist, also falls into this category because it doesn't make Ameri strong necessarily, as she still had to use an enhancement spell during her fight in Walter Park, so I think instead the ability lets her perform at 100%. She's essentially manipulating herself through hypnotism to think that she is unbeatable. Aside from people, manipulation can also be used on objects, like Agaras's My Area, in which he can manipulate anything he considers his area. I think this is essentially a way stronger version of Cherisil and transformation magic. We also have elemental manipulation like Gap and his Wind Sword, the Crystals and Ice manipulation, as well as Ifrit Sensei with Demon Fire manipulation. I think Ifrit Sensei's fight with Asmodeous during the Heartbreaker arc actually really captures how important mastery of verbal and non-verbal magic is. Considering that he is fighting fire with fire, if we go with the assumption that Bloodline is a unique ability, then it should make sense that Ifrit would totally dominate Az. But that isn't the case. Asmodeous and his training with fire magic enabled him to fight with Ifrit Sensei, showcasing his abilities to the point that he even earns the praise of his opponent. Next, we have Conjuration, which is the ability to conjure things out of thin air. The most obvious user of this is Clara and her bloodline ability Summon, where she is literally able to pull out anything she has seen from her pockets. However, aside from her, we also have Kalego Sensei, who is able to summon Cerberian, his 3-headed demon beast. For less flashy users, however, we have the Barbados clan, who are able to summon special arrows, or Vine from the Heartbreaker arc, who can summon poison from his tusks. I think these types of abilities are interesting since we often see Kalego Sensei conjuring various items like books, his stamps, etc. And not to mention, the whole concept of familiars is conjuring them from someplace. It just goes to show how the evolution of magic in this world works. Lastly, we have what seems like the most straightforward type, but isn't, which is enhancement. Just like the word, this allows the users to enhance certain personal attributes. The most hacks here is definitely Blushenko Sensei, with his quasi-immortality, in which he enhances his regeneration to the max. We also have other versions of this, such as Balam enhancing his detection, and Person his non-detection or stealth. Now that we have covered all the types of magic in depth, let's talk about some very creative combinations and uses of magic. Firstly, I think it's impossible to talk about creative uses without mentioning Asmodeus' beautiful Amaryllis Fire. It's an amazing new type of fire magic which is not just purely fighting on the basis of heat, but actually uses some form of manipulation that allows his fire to lure and absorb other flames. It's pretty amazing. Then again, the research was laid out by Sullivan, but still, kudos to Azkun. Next up is our resident gentleman Caim. His bloodline ability is not inherently combative, and usually he would need to have magic beasts and such nearby to even be able to use it. However, his creative use of leading the familiars of his comrades really increases his possibilities in battle and showcases him in a different light. I can definitely see how powerful this ability could be as a support in small teams or as a division commander of various demons and beasts. Talk about scary. Lastly, the best and most creative use in my opinion is definitely Clara's. Her toy box ability, which she showcased during the Harvest Festival arc, was out of this world powerful, that it was almost able to drain Iruma's ring. Now, not only is she capitalizing on her bloodline ability by going to the realm of her pockets, where she summons all the various things, she's also using illusion magic on Iruma, as well as the stealth she learned from taking all the opposite advice of the succubus Raim Sensei. This toy box ability does not only knock out a strong opponent from battle, but it is able to drain and steal the magic power of their opponents, thereby enhancing themselves as well. The only drawback I can think of is if their body is vulnerable while inside, meaning you definitely need a partner if that's the case. However, we still don't know the limits of this ability. Maybe it's possible to have more than one person. Since it's her pocket, she should also be able to create anything in there, maybe like sleeping gas, and just knock people unconscious one by one. The possibilities are endless. Alright, so those are my top 3. What about you guys? What was your favorite use of magic in the manga? Comment it down below. I hope you guys like this video. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more. Welcome to Demon School Iruma-kun content. I also want to make videos of other underrated anime, so if you're interested, hit that notification bell too. See ya!